Other news, also this past weekend, Canelo Alvarez took on Triple G, Genady Golovkin, in their third fight of the last, 5 years. They had a first fight in 2017, their second fight in 2018, and now what many are billing to be the final of their trilogy. They concluded the rivalry this past Saturday. A big fan of Canelo Alvarez. A very hot crowd for Canelo, and he was introduced by Alejandro Fernandez, who is the son of Vicente Fernandez, who is very obviously a well-known artist in the Hispanic community, obviously from Mexico, also hailing from Guadalajara. Obviously, it was very entertaining. I loved hearing the music, loved seeing the entrance, and again, a hot crowd for Canelo Alvarez, who was entering this fight 57 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws. His opponent, Genady Golovkin, 42, 2, and 1. Early on in the fight, Canelo Alvarez was more precise with his punches, very decisive. He was establishing dominance with the power punches. Triple G seemed to be a little bit tentative for his style of fighting, especially now that he's hitting his 40s. He's I would say he uses the jab a lot. He's very well known for his jab. Early on, though, he was 2 out of 32 in terms of landing his jab. He wasn't able to establish, a rhythm with the jab. It was allowing Canelo to really dictate the fight, allowing Canelo to take control of it and become the aggressor that we saw in the second fight. After the third round, it was clear Triple G had a bruise on his forehead. It was forming. By the middle of the fight, it appeared he had almost 2 horns on his forehead. And with every round that had passed, Canelo Alvarez seemed to gain more confidence, more power behind each punch. And it was said before the fight he wanted to punish Triple G. He really wanted to assert himself and take control of the overall fight and allow Triple G to really feel his presence throughout the entirety of those 12 rounds. So although Triple G had a slow start, in the 9th round he really picked up the pace and he was letting it fly more, and I feel like he knew that he was already behind in the fight. And it was then that he realized, I got nothing else to lose. Why not just go ahead and just let it fly? So from the 9th to the 12th, we got to see a little bit more competitiveness from both men, and they were trading blows, obviously jabs, the hooks, the whole 9 yards. That's when it really became an entertaining fight. But for me, I'm always a fan of Canelo Alvarez's defense. The way he's able to, evade his opponent's punches, like Martha Stewart evading her taxes, the head defense that he's able to produce in avoiding the attacks of his opponents. Obviously, in my opinion, I think the first fight, it ended in a draw, but I do believe Triple G had won that fight. He accused, Canelo of running, and really dodging him throughout the fight, not really standing there and countering. Canelo won the second fight by a majority of decision back in 2018, where he really, he really established himself as the aggressor and came forward with his punches just like he did in this third fight. Ultimately, Canelo Alvarez would win by unanimous decision. But the thing was, these judges, they kind of scored it closer than what I thought it was. One of them had it 116 to 112. Meanwhile, the other 2 judges both had it 115 to 113, suggesting it was a very close fight. And I don't think that was the case. I think early on in the fight, from rounds 1 to round 8, 9, it was clearly Canelo's fight. He was dictating. He was the aggressor, as I previously mentioned. And it wasn't until the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th when Triple G kind of finally showed his presence and at times was winning rounds. So I don't believe it was that close, but nonetheless, an entertaining fight. And, I'm always just entertained by the Canelo Alvarez fight. And when he's with Triple G, you have 2 power punchers. You have 2 fighters that kind of try to resemble themselves after the Mexican style of fighting. Moving forward, Canelo Alvarez was asked about a potential rematch with Dimitri Bivol, who obviously had defeated him earlier in the year. He would have to move up to 174 pounds to contend for that title that he had lost. And Triple G, he still wants to fight. He says he's not done yet, although he's older and I don't want to say slowing down. But nonetheless, that's the effects of getting older. He still wants to fight. He believes that he can still go at a high level. And I say, hey, why not? You don't want to go out in a loss. You want to go out on a high. You want to go out as a winner. But until then, they establish that this beef is squashed. They think everything's resolved. They seem very friendly and cordial after the fight. I myself, I enjoy these 2 fighting. So to see them in a friendly and cheery way was kind of off-putting for a moment. But ultimately, you love seeing that sign of sportsmanship and respect between the two. I thought it was a wonderful 3 fights. Of course, apart from the controversy of the draw, Triple G, Canelo Alvarez will look forward to their next set of fights. And until then, we have an upcoming fight. Dmitry Bivol is also competing on November. I will be checking out that fight just to see how he does, how he fares, because I do think that the rematch with Canelo Alvarez will happen probably in May. That's obviously the slate that they like to have. They have him compete in May, maybe September, and sometimes maybe even June or July, somewhere in between. Nonetheless, Canelo Alvarez, again, adding to his legacy, adding to, cementing his spot as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport. Again, improving his record to 58 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws.